We moved back here to this apartment we bought as an investment, never to live in. Pretty soon the name Arthur starts creeping into every conversation. Did you see the doctor? Oh, yes, Arthur made me keep the appointment. You going to your folks for Thanksgiving? Oh, yeah. No, actually, Arthur and I are having friends over. I didn't know which one was more of a coward. Him for not telling me about you or me for not asking. And then we met. I don't think my loving him threatened your relationship. Maybe I'm not being truthful with myself, but I don't. That's not to say I wasn't jealous. But I was happy for Colin, because there was no denying he was happy. Despite everything he was facing, he was happy. At last. He lit up with you. I envied that. And you. The way you cared for him, sometimes over-cared for him. I never could have done it. I couldn't have survived. I don't know how you did.
Who said I survived?
You entered this relationship knowing full well, in all probability, this is the way it would end. And you never wavered.
Of course I did, Marion. Don't have me sainted. Sometimes you got no choice. Believe me, if I could have gotten away from him, I would have. But I was a prisoner of love. Anyway, there were lots of pluses. Got to quit a job I hated, stay home all day and watch game shows. Got to meet a lot of doctors, learned a lot of big words. Then there was all the exciting, exotic traveling we got to do. I have a box with a souvenir from each place we went. You want to see? Well, these are from the house that we rented in Reno when we went to clear out Colin's lungs. And these are from the hospital in Reno. Colin made them. They had a wonderful arts and crafts program. This is from our first visit to the clinic in Paris. And this is from our second visit to the clinic in Paris. Faith healer in Philly. It doesn't do much for a fever, but it looks great with a green sweater. Voodoo doctor in New Orleans. And then we have Mexico, Houston, Boston, LA, San Francisco. We traveled anywhere where they had hope to sell. And we came home with souvenirs. Mary and I would have done anything, gone anywhere to avoid or delay. And not just because I loved him so desperately, but when you've lived the way that we lived for 3 years, the battle becomes your life. And I guess that's why I didn't tell you we were losing him. Why I didn't call until after he was gone. Marion, the last few hours of his life were beyond any scenario I had imagined. Well, you know he hadn't walked in nearly 6 months. He was totally incontinent. If he spoke 2 words in a week, I was thrilled. Days went by without his ever even looking at me. He would just stare out at I don't know what. Not the meals I fed him, not the TV I played all the time. Just out. Or maybe in. It was the middle of the night and his breathing was becoming labored. His lungs were filling with fluid again. I knew the sound. I heard it enough times before. So I called the ambulance. I got him to the hospital. They hooked him up to the machines, the oxygen. And they shot him with morphine. And they told me that they would do what they could to keep him alive. So I pulled a chair up next to the bed. And I was sitting there reading a magazine, wondering whether to call Helen to let the cleaning lady in, or maybe he'd fall asleep and I could sneak home for an hour. And when I looked up, he was looking at me. I mean, really looking right into my eyes. So I reached up and I patted his cheek. I said, "Oh, honey, it's all right. Everything's gonna be fine." But that wasn't enough for him. There was something more. And I don't know what I was thinking. I'm not sure I was. I just heard myself saying, "Colin, do you want to die?" His eyes filled, and they closed, and he nodded. I slipped off my shoes. I folded back the blanket, and I climbed into bed next to him. I put my arms around him. And I helped him to put his arms around me. And I told him, it's all right to let go now. It's time to move on. And he did. Marion, you've got a life. And his son.
I understand.
Oh, geez, with all this screaming and sad storytelling, I forgot I brought you flowers and everything.
You brought me flowers?